In what?
In permethrin. It's like,
So like a bug repellent?
it's like, it like repels mosquitoes.
Oh.
Sally.
But it's like very strong. Like my, like,
Can I just have your email?
sure. No, it's scentless. The one that I got was scentless. But like, it literally, like you're not supposed to use one undergarment. And the directions literally say, don't use it on any clothing that is going to touch your skin, which like is all clothing. So we had to like soak it for like 2 hours, and then we had to let it like completely dry, and then just to be safe, my dad was like, we're gonna like put it through a load of wash so that it's not so strong that your skin.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully no mosquitoes come near me. And then I also have like bug spray and like the bracelets and stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe in this one I should stand up.
Where are you traveling?
Tanzania.
That stuff works against a bunch of things besides mosquitoes too. That's great. You can buy clothing online that's
Has it in
infused
it?
with it.
Oh,
And they say
okay.
it's good for 20 or 30 washings before it's no longer
I
effective.
noticed that
Yeah.
Kittery Trading Post, they're
Yeah.
actually selling garment. Is that what you're just talking
Yeah,
about?
exactly.
Oh, yeah.
It's
With
infused
like
with this
mosquito
stuff.
repellent, right?
Yeah.
What did
Some
I
type
say?
of chemical attraction to the fabric and the textile that they make clothes in.
You know, I was
Like
chatting
ATP,
with
they
Susan, I didn't
have
Actually,
go
clothing.
Bob
I can't
and
remember. It's
Hazel,
like-
top 10, both of
I
them.
can't remember the
Ethan Knight,
but it's right next to like
out of 30, I think there were 32.
Yeah.
we told them.
Next to that, they have mosquito repellent
Actually, it's
pants
a
and
state,
shirts
like,
and
it's
sweaters.
just
It's crazy.
Actually
It's
pretty nice
awesome.
gear.
You get to ski every day of their lives. You know, it's different. It's a different
Like
level.
textiles, I think.
Sally.
How are
Carrie.
you? Hi. Nice to see you.
This is that.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Usually not a video.
No, not too much. Cranking away, man. Yeah. Been on the road a lot.
Some of the numbers are kind of expected and some are so scary. There you go.
Thank you.
But it's also data that, you know, they say that.
It's funny, I was in Iowa, caucus well, for work, but during caucus, and came back to the primaries. And I live in Maine.
North Carolina?
Yeah, exactly, you know what I mean? So, following the boss. Yeah, right, yeah, exactly.
Okay, all right. Do we want to conserve energy for the lake up, or is that,
Oh gosh, I didn't even notice.
it's okay with me, I didn't know if you can't.
It doesn't matter, I guess. You know, it's easier to see the thing.
Okay.
So why don't, if nobody, can everybody see okay?
Yeah.
That's okay, please, okay. Ooh, it's 7. If everybody could please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. We don't have anyone who's asked to speak on items outside the agenda, so we'll just start right in with the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of Wednesday, February 5th?
I move that we approve the minutes of the regular meeting of Wednesday, February 5th, 2020.
All right. So, Joe, Lisa, or Sue, if you have any changes, obviously if you guys see any, I don't know if you read through them, if you saw any typos or anything.
Nothing jumped out at me either. I thought they were nicely written.
Okay.
As usual. We
Yes.
never find anything. We do, it's always so.
I just had one small thing on the first page with the unified basketball, Elaine.
Yes.
Tatiana's name is Tatyana.
Tatyana.
Yep. And she also introduced the other coach from Noble, and then the 2 special ed people, and I'd like to get their names in there too. Do you remember that?
Hannah Hare
Yeah,
is one of the teachers, and then
Tim Jones, right?
was the other coach.
And Deb Hasty?
Deb Hasty was
Okay.
the other special ed teacher. from
Okay,
Noble. Yes,
so it's
that's
Hannah Hare now?
Hannah Hare.
Okay.
Deb
Deb
Hasty.
Hasty,
Hasty.
Hasty, Hasty.
And they're both special educators.
And then Tim Jones is like Tatiana's counterpart at Noble.
At Noble?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know how you want to word that in there, but if you can just, like, Mr. Caverly introduced, and Tatiana, who introduced blah, 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 and presented the Nighthawks, something like that? Okay. All right, perfect. Just want to give them a shout out.
Yeah, absolutely, that's great. That's fantastic.
So, okay, so if anybody doesn't have any other changes, it's just the four of us who will vote. All those in favor? Okay. Yep. And it was, we're not excluding them, it was because they weren't here. All right. Next on my report is the town officials meeting, and Joe attended this morning, and he's going to give us a report.
It was a busy meeting. We talked about a lot of stuff. Both Mr. Caverly and Mr. Ellsworth gave their respective budget updates as to where each of us are in our processes. There was no representation from Elliott, so it was just the Southborough folks and us. It looks like both are going to be in the range of 2.5%. I think is what Perry said, that he was going to be in the range of about 2.5% as well. So it looks good. He spoke to a variety of things about concern about addressing market demand for pay in town for many of the positions. He's expecting to see a lot of attrition over the next 5 years, and so he's concerned about that. He talked about some capital equipment stuff, our capital projects. The police station, he's very happy to report that it came in $300K under budget.
Oh, wow. That's
But
great.
he's having to deal with the library roof and heating system. The handicap ramp for the library needs a roof. The geothermal system is actually losing money. He's looking at ripping it out just so that to stop the losses. So there's a lot going on there. John, you talked about some of the capital projects that we're looking at, like upgrading the heating systems at the Great Works and Middle School, the paving projects, and things of that nature. What else? I've got a bunch of notes. We talked about diesel and gas bids. I think we sort of handshake agreement that we would work together next year on the propane.
Yes.
To try to get a better price for the town. The CES pedestrian safety meeting is tomorrow morning to talk about traffic patterns. Trying to figure out how to keep that problem or improve the traffic flow in that area. There's just too many cars dropping off in the morning, and it's making a mess. Perry had a question about the school zone warning lights, whether the timing was off, and I think, Brian, you said you were going to go check into that. He talked about the TIF project. It looks like he's going to have to go back to the original plan for the sewer work because the test holes uncovered some problems, some ledge and some cobble. And the road costs now appears to be higher than they thought it was going to be, and he's still having trouble getting somebody to come and bid on the job. Yeah, the last thing was, Mallory Cook from the town council asked us whether we would consider hosting the November election for South Berwick at the high school, or possibly even, I guess, the Great Works School came up as another possibility, because the traffic patterns at the town hall are pretty nasty, and especially presidential election years. So I guess
That's a good idea.
we're looking into that. Yeah, as it happens, because we've scheduled that election day as a
Yeah, that's a
as
great
a
idea.
faculty development day anyway. The kids won't be in school, so.
Much more
it's-
parking at one of them.
Maybe it would improve voter turnout because
Yeah,
people wouldn't
'cause
be like
we-
such a hassle to
Would be-
go.
Yes. Yeah.
Did I miss anything important?
No, you did a great job. Welcome back next week or next month.
All right, thank you, Joe. Mr. Superintendent, all you.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to introduce Sally Manahan. Sally, am I saying your last name correctly?
No, but it's okay.
Okay. Sorry.
It's hard to say.
it's-
Sometimes I say it wrong.
Sally works for York Hospital and is also involved with the Choose to Be Healthy Coalition, which works with schools across York County. Sally's here tonight to share our results and kind of share the state and county results around the Maine Integrated Youth Health Survey, which is a survey created by the state of Maine to really talk about behaviors and attitudes of 5th through 12th graders around drug and alcohol use and at-risk behaviors. So, Sally, thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Yeah,
And I'm
thank
gonna
you so
turn it
much.
over to you and to share
Thank you.
with us.
Thanks for having me. I hope you don't mind me standing up at this rate and speaking to everybody a little bit better. And I have to apologize to Sydney. I owe you a red folder, and I have more in my car, and I can also get them electronically, and I apologize. So thank you, John, for inviting me, and thank you, board, for allowing me to speak. I'll just say in 25 years of doing this, 12 in this state, I've only been invited by a school board 3 times. So school boards don't, for some reason, don't often invite me to do these things. So you're only the second one in Maine, and thank you, because I think it's important to look at your data and to think about it and talk about it. So my purpose here is to go over your data, and I don't have a ton of time. I'm happy to work with the schools, which I think I already am a little bit, on looking at the data and what it means and how you can use it to better the health of your students. And whenever I present the data to the community, to parents, I always emphasize in my presentation, I won't get to it all tonight, but that this is really it takes a village approach, that the schools, you have a lot to do. This data is collected in your buildings, but I am not in any way saying that we are expecting you to deal with all of this. We are certainly not. And hopefully you understand that Choose to Be Healthy and the hospital are here, and myself are here to help as much as we can. So that's just a quick little rundown of who we are. We've been around for quite a while now, and I work with law enforcement, some of them in the room here. I work with parents, I work with schools, municipalities, etc. To do substance use prevention. Work with youth. I was just telling the last group I spoke to about our youth regional training, which is going to be at Spring Hill this year. It's on March 5th, and it's going to be amazing. And your students are invited like other students across Southern York County. So that's just a little bit more about who we are and which communities we serve. And a little bit more about the survey. If you don't know already, it's conducted every 2 years. We have an agreement with your school system via John Keverly and your previous superintendents that we get to look at your specific data so we can help figure out what it means and present it back to you in this way. So what I did in the folder is I gave you the reports for your middle school data and your high school data, and I gave you a sheet on the front that shows your high school data in the past 10 years. Like I said, I've been here 12, and so I've given you a table showing the past 10 years of data, of survey data for your kids and what they say. It's anonymous, it's voluntary. There are very large samples. The data is cleaned. It's a tested survey tool. I know it's hard sometimes to believe all the numbers, but we're pretty confident at a state and a national level that it's a good survey, and you can feel confident it's giving you good information about your kids. It is just a snapshot, though, and if you want to delve deeper into the data, it's always good to talk to the youth, to do focus groups, to talk to your staff, and really check in. And so maybe this will be a first effort at that. And obviously we use it to judge how we're doing and progress and gaps and things that we can do to better the health of our kids. And I should also say the survey asks about all sorts of health questions, and I'm only going over a few substance use and a couple mental health questions. There's questions about nutrition and obesity and sexual behaviors, so I'm just going over the ones that I've been asked to speak to tonight, but I've given you the report so you can look at the other data. So this chart shows you your middle school grades, and it shows you the last time your middle school grades took this survey was in 2009, and then it shows you that number compared to the 2019 data. So those first 2 bars in green are the 2009 data. So past 30-day use of prescription drugs without a doctor's permission, cigarettes, marijuana, and alcohol. And I picked on Katie from the Interact Club at the last presentation. I won't pick up on her again. I'll pick on somebody else. What do you see when you look at that chart? What do you see when you look at the number in your middle schools from 2009 to 2019? What strikes you? Anybody?
Improvement.
Improvement. That's right. That's what Katie noticed too. And so you see prescription drugs, you had about 7% or exactly 7% at the state and at the school level saying they had misused prescription drugs at least once in the past 30 days, and then that went all the way down to 2%. And that's what we see across the state. We've done a really good job with prescription drug misuse and abuse. And then you see with the cigarettes, we've done a really good job. It wasn't very high back in '09, but now it's literally down to nothing. So none of your middle school students reported using cigarettes in the past 30 days, and only 2% of the state. And then you see the marijuana numbers, also an improvement. Yes, still higher than we would like them, but certainly going down in the right direction. And we know just from child development that fortunately middle school, there's not a lot of unhealthy drug use yet, but we are seeing more of it. And it is certainly the time when we want to be doing prevention, for sure, because as you'll see in a moment when you see the high school data, I think you'll be struck by, that's where you definitely see a jump.
Before you move, I
Yes,
one
yes, of
question.
course.
So,
Yes,
I presume you're using the same instrument for
Yes.
2009, 2019. Is there any factor that could account for that difference in terms of honesty of reporting, or do you think that the two cohorts are being equally as honest?
yes, the latter.
Okay.
I think from what, so I'm not the statistician, I just look at the data and present it.
Sure.
But the state, if you look at the report in your folder, it'll show you the confidence intervals. And,
Okay.
and I think what you, as I tell young people, especially, and anybody that asks about, well, are people being truthful? What researchers have found by and large is that you'll have a small percentage of youth who will lie in one direction and a small percentage that will lie in the other direction. And it's not, it evens itself out, and it's not big enough to make a big difference
Okay.
in what your understanding of behaviors is. Maybe that 7% is really an 8, but it's not going to vary enough for you to go, oh my gosh.
Yep. Okay.
Now, that being said, as you look at the data, you know Marshwood schools better than I do. If something strikes you as like, that just doesn't make sense, I highly recommend that schools, talk to their students, talk to their SROs, talk to the school nurse and the counselors. Maybe there is something that isn't being caught. I tell a sad but true story of presenting data in Newburyport, Massachusetts, and being shocked at one year there was this spike in the kids feeling unsafe at school. And I didn't understand it, but as soon as I presented it to a group from the school, they told me about some incidents that had happened right before the kids took the survey. It explained why the kids suddenly felt unsafe at school in that survey. So you know the story behind the data better than I do. If there's anything in here that strikes you as maybe not making sense or something. So here's your numbers for past 30-day drug use at the high school level. The first olive colored green is your high school, and then the other green on the right is Maine. So when I look at data, I look at a couple things that I look at right off the bat is I compare the school data to the state. How does it differ? Is it different? And if it's different, is it statistically significantly different? And then I look at past years, and is it changing over time? And so you see here that past 30-day prescription drug use is down. You'll see in the next slide how far it's gone down over time, and tobacco use is low. Marijuana use is a little bit higher than the state, not significantly higher from a statistical standpoint, but yeah, it is higher. Same with alcohol, a little bit higher than the state. And then here's a big busy chart, but just to show you more visually, and you have the handout in your folder, that since '09, here the pattern is pretty much a positive one, that in past 30-day use, our high school students here at Marshwood are using less. You do see with marijuana that there was a period where it went down and then it's back up. I will say as a state, the marijuana use numbers have remained surprisingly happily level at around 25% across the state, even in these years of normalization around use, legalization of medical marijuana, legalization of non-medical adult use. As a public health person, we do worry that that will change youth behaviors. So far, we're not seeing a big increase in that, but it's certainly higher than we would like to see it. And then the alcohol, you can see 10 years ago was pretty high there at 32%, and then, but has gone down to 27%. And if you looked at national data, I was just at a conference in DC, and there's this nice big gigantic chart that shows you from like the 70s to now, drug use is way down. And so when you hear people say the war on drugs hasn't worked, there are some aspects of the war on drugs that have not worked. We've certainly, with incarceration and different aspects, and one could argue different political things, but when you look at youth use, it has gone down since my teenage years of, I think it was 56% of the kids had been drinking in the past 30 days as opposed to 27 now. So I would say the news is good. And the other thing I would add, I would say that what we need to be reminded of, I was talking with Lisa in the break there, most of our young people are not using drugs. And we have to remember that. And we have to celebrate that and support those kids who are not using. Because I think sometimes in all of our work, whether it's healthcare or law enforcement or schools, we focus so much on the kids who need our help because they do have a drug problem that we forget that most kids are not using.
Can you go back one slide just for a second? So I was curious, this is 9 to 12 mixed together. I'm
Yes.
imagining that if you were to separate out
Yes.
the grades, you'd see a
Yes.
steady increase from 9 to 12. Okay.
Yes, you
Yeah.
would.
Okay.
And I will say that frustratingly so, the state does not give you your data by grade. But I think this is a good question, and I'm not sure I know the answer, but I think if you asked for a big grade, you could get it. But yes, when I have seen data by grade,
Yeah.
you will definitely see a jump, especially, you'll see 9th grade, not so much, any behaviors, 10th grade more, and then 11
Yeah.
and 12, big jump.
Thank you.
And so when you talk to young people, especially, let's say, a senior boy, and you say, do most of your friends smoke marijuana? They might say yes, and they might be right,
Yeah.
because in their peer group in 12th grade, it might be
Yeah.
the majority. But we know that as a whole, we can honestly say that most of our kids are not abusing drugs.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for the good questions. So vaping, everybody knows about vaping and is worried about vaping. Here's data for the county and the state. We don't have Marshwood-specific data. I've heard from the state that in the next survey, you will get Marshwood-specific data around vaping. But you can feel fairly confident that your numbers are not going to vary much from the counties, from your counties. And so you'll see that York County 7th and 8th graders, 7% vaped in the past 30 days. Of those 7%, 30% were vaping nicotine, 5% were vaping marijuana. And then at high school, and in 2017, it was 17% of high school kids were vaping, and now it's jumped in 2 years to 29%. And of those almost 30% of high school kids who are vaping, 57% in York County were vaping nicotine, 13% vaping marijuana. What the other percentage were vaping, we don't know. Some kids, I do think, vape just flavors, and then I think there are some kids who vape and aren't really aware what's in it, but that's just a personal belief. I don't have any data to back that up. So this to me is frightening. I was surprised, to be quite honest, at how high the nicotine number was. And so we've done a good job getting kids to understand how harmful cigarettes are, but
Yeah.
they're not apparently understanding the harm of
just
vaping
switched.
nicotine.
The cigarette down to 0 doesn't matter anymore. You just replaced them.
And we know that in one of those Juul pods, there is the equivalent of a package of cigarettes worth of nicotine. And so, you know, it's scary. Today at your school, I'm not sure which room here, Gina Brodsky, who works with me at Choose to Be Healthy, held a student intervention class for young people that have gotten in trouble because of their substance use. And she sent me a text. She said it was an awesome class. She said there were 2 girls, I don't know if they were from Marshwood, and I shouldn't say if I did know, I'm not sure which school they were from, 2 girls that were in there for vaping, and they were both so motivated by what they learned that they want to quit. And they're going to quit together, and Jean is going to help them. And so really good evaluations. The kids were talking about they loved the class, they didn't think they would, eye-opening, really great comments from the kids who were in that class today. So thank you for hosting it. So yeah, vaping is scary. And fortunately, some laws have been passed, and maybe access to vape devices will be more restricted, but now we've got a lot of young people that are addicted to nicotine, potentially, and we don't really have any good addiction treatment for them. So that's a problem. We do have an intervention that Gina runs. It doesn't focus on vaping. We do have an intervention via a workbook that we've shared with John and other school staff that has been developed around helping kids talk about their tobacco use and vaping use. It's not treatment, it's not a billable service, but it's what we've got. And I'll just tell you, in the addiction treatment world, there are not many people out there that treat adolescents, and so that's concerning. Whoop. Uh-oh, the clicker might have died, but that's all right. So we can, you're free to ask questions and comments as we go along. So here's some questions about feeling safe. If you feel safe at school, you'll see across the board in all of your middle school and your high school, kids predominantly feel safe. Those are nice high numbers. And there's a lot of positive data in your reports. As you look through it, you will see that. And then been bullied in the past year, higher in middle school and then at the high school level, which I think is typical in all of our schools, that unfortunately that's middle school is where young people experience the most bullying.
Is that Marshall data or is that?
Yes,
data?
no, I'm sorry, yes, this is, and it wasn't clear on my title. We're back to Marshall data. And this is also Marshall data. So this is a risk factor. So when in the world of prevention of public health, we talk about young people are either more or less at risk for substance use. And there are factors that have been studied and proven to put kids at more risk. We don't say things cause substance use, but they put them at more risk. So thinking use is not harmful is one of those risk factors. And so you can see with daily tobacco use, most kids, middle school, high school, doesn't matter, think, almost 90% think daily tobacco use is harmful. So we've gotten the message to them around that. They get that. Binge drinking, the middle school kids weren't asked that question. Binge drinking is 5 or more drinks in a row, by the way, 2 or more times a week. So that's pretty unhealthy drinking, no matter how you look at it. But you can see most kids by far, high school level, think that is harmful. Now we get to marijuana. That now the numbers get a little more concerning from the public health standpoint. Most kids thinking it's not harmful, and 40% even at the middle school. As I mentioned in my last presentation, that we don't have a lot of questions on the survey about marijuana. So the survey wasn't created for states where it's legal, where medical marijuana is legal, where recreational, non-medical adult use is legal. So my personal opinion is that this question is probably not very helpful. It does give an indication, but young people, when they answer it, might be thinking, hey, I know somebody uses medical marijuana once a week and it's not harmful for them. So we could argue that that's not the best question about that. But if you look at the high school data, it will show that that number has definitely risen over the years quite dramatically. So we do know that whatever it is, young people simply don't think it's as harmful. And you could argue, too, I didn't get into this in the last presentation, that even if they are thinking about medical marijuana, it is a concern because we want young people to understand that there can be a harm associated with adolescents using marijuana. Another important risk factor that we look at in my work and the police certainly do in their work, is access. And we know from research that the more easily accessible a drug is, the more likely young people especially are to do it. So the cheaper a drug is and the easier to get it is, the more likely a young person especially will use it and potentially abuse it. And so you can see that 7th graders and 8th graders are telling us that tobacco is really easy to get. And then for some reason at Marshwood High School, that question wasn't reported back, but we do know that half of the main high school students think that tobacco is easy to get. Now with alcohol, it goes up quite a bit. Now you can see it's much more easy to get alcohol. Even 43% of our middle school students say it's easy to get, 61% of our Marshwood High School students. And then marijuana, almost 60% of the high school kids say it's easy to get, and almost 20% of the middle school students think it's easy to get. So again, perception is important, and if young people are perceiving that it's easy to get something and that it's not harmful, that does put them at increased risk. It doesn't mean they're going to use the substance, but it puts them at increased risk. And then the questions that have been concerning all of us across the state, if not across the country, is our increased poor mental health indicators for young people and adults for that matter. So the question about depression is not asked of your 7th graders. They're too young to probably give an accurate indication, but of your Marshwood 9th through 12th graders, 37% said that they had felt sad or hopeless every day for 2 weeks, at least once in the past 12 months, which is one of the definitions, not the only definition, but certainly one indicator of depression. So that number is a little bit higher than the state. What I pointed out at the last session was the other concern here is that your 37% is significantly higher than it was 2 years ago at Marshwood in 2017, where I think it was 26%.
26, yes.
So that's a significant jump. And there's a good example, in my opinion, of you folks who know your community having a conversation about why is that? What is going on? Is part of it an increased, as we talked about in the last session, an increased awareness of mental health, so people are talking about it more? Is that part of it? But like I said, we're seeing this across York County, across the state, unfortunately. And then considered suicide in the past 12 months, similar numbers regardless of your age, or well, same numbers, 18%, whether you're in middle school or high school. And then one that we've been talking about that is another concern is that of those 32% of the kids that identified as being depressed at the state level, 4% said they got help from a teacher or school staff. That's a really low number. So of the third of the kids who said, yes, I was depressed, only 4% said they got help from a teacher or school staff. So in the last meeting of the Wellness Committee, we talked a bit about, one potential, again, you know your community, maybe some youth just don't know who they can talk to or have not identified that person. So in some schools, there's, it's an increased awareness about who to go to, and I think it was Cindy Travers in the last session that talked about some of the things you're doing at the middle school to help kids know, who do I go to? Who can I talk to? Is it the school nurse? Is it the guidance counselor? She talked about having increased visits with the guidance counselors. And so, because they were concerned that there were a lot of kids that had never even met with their guidance counselors. And so that's just some concerning data and maybe some ideas on what one could do about it. And maybe I should pause and take a sip of water. Does anybody have a question or a comment about any of this so far? And then this is just more of a discussion about what mental health looks like in our, now we're back to York County data. We don't have this for Marshwood. We have this for York County and Maine. Hopefully some of you already know what ACEs are. We talk about this at the Department of Education, the Department of Health, and in my field quite a bit. Adverse childhood experiences have been shown through some very large longitudinal studies to have a huge detrimental effect on people's health. And so you see in that sidebar there, if a person has 4 or more adverse childhood experiences, they're twice as likely to smoke, 12 times more likely to have attempted suicide, 7 times more likely to have an alcohol disorder, 10 times more likely to have injected street drugs. And it goes on, and people with 4 more ACEs live shorter lives and have more likely to have heart conditions. It's a fascinating look at how trauma affects all aspects of us.
So, if I may ask?
Yes.
So physical and/or sexual abuse, what else?
Yes, yes, and I have the list on my notes in the PowerPoint. I'll go read them. So divorce,
Yeah.
a loss of a parent, and this is how it's asked on the survey, so that the kids can identify, how many they have.
I think a parent with drug or alcohol.
Yep,
Yeah.
thank you. A
Mental
parent lived with an adult who had a mental illness, a parent whose guardian was in jail or prison, parent or guardian who died, divorced or separated, parent or adult who swore at you and often insulted you, put you down, or humiliated you, you were physically hurt by an adult in your home. One of the things, interestingly enough, is the question is not asked about homelessness or food insecurity, and those are 2 traumas as well, and they weren't asked. So unfortunately, we have a lot of young people, this is high school age kids in York County and Maine who responded to this. So we have about 21% who are identifying as having 4 or more ACEs. And not a good number. The good news is that at the state level and in different departments in the state, this is huge and is talked about all the time. I'm part of the governor's task force on opioid response, and we've been talking about ACEs. So they're very aware of this, and I do think people are trying to figure out what to do with this information. And I know a lot of the schools are trauma informed and learning all about these things. So we are making headway, but I did want to include that data. And so then now, so just quickly some of the things, and I won't go over every comment on the slides or every slide, but we look at substance use prevention from a holistic approach. It's not all up to the schools. I'm going to just skip real quick to say, there's a list of things that communities can do. There's a list of things that parents can do. I listed some of the things we're doing as a coalition, which you can see reflect back to some of these things. Some things that I would highlight for any school, and I know that Marshwood is doing great things in many of these areas, but any school should make sure that they have an evidence-based curriculum for health, for substance use, for mental health, that they have alcohol, tobacco, and drug policies that include getting help for youth, that don't simply suspend children, because we know that actually can do more harm than good. So SERP is one little example of how you can get help for a child instead of taking him out of school. Training staff, which I know Marshwood does, but making sure that they're up and giving them the time and the resources to be up on the things that they need to know. Support counselors for mental health and drug use. Support positive student activities. Collaborate with the community when you can. Share data, use the data, which you're certainly doing today, and engaging parents and youth in this process, because the youth are part of this. We've got youth here today. They need to be a big voice in all of this, as their parents do. And so when I do this presentation with parents, I focus on what they need to be doing, because they're a huge part of this. You will see when you look at all of the lists, they're all pretty similar. It's all about positive bonding, positive relationships, role modeling, restricting access, being informed, talking, having clear, consistent rules in the family, in the school, out in the community. So it's interesting when you look at them, they're all very similar. Making sure, we talk to parents about how to recognize the signs and when to go for help and who to talk to. So some pretty basic stuff. The top one, we underline, treat all youth drug use as harmful. We can't get into conversations that, well, at least it's this and not that, because we know from science that any drug use is harmful for an adolescent brain. So whether they're vaping nicotine or marijuana or taking prescription drugs, it's the adolescent brain gets, hijacked and rewired, and it doesn't really matter. So prevention is about all drug use. And that's just a list of some of the things we do. A lot of them, the Marshwood school system takes advantage of, and we're grateful for that, and we're happy to do what we can. We're totally grant funded. We're housed at the hospital, but we do survive on grants. So it's just something to keep in mind. It's, hopefully we'll always be there, but it's not a sure thing. I mentioned CERC before, which you're taking advantage of. There's the website where you can look at more information about this survey, more handouts, and that's our website. And then my name and info is on the very last slide. And I don't know, John, did I go over my time? Do you have time for questions?
No, absolutely, no. And I do want to mention that Sally, Gina, and Maggie actually from Sweetser came to one of our administrative team meetings just to kind of share this data with us, and we had an opportunity to kind of get our heads around it and had some conversations, just really to try to process. Obviously, there's some slides that were really concerning that we saw. So, but Sally, I appreciate you coming in and meeting with us. I know this is the third presentation in the district today, so.
Yes, I'm going to spend the night here. One of my friendly cops here, neighborhood police officers, is going to drive me to the nearest, no. And yes, we're happy to work in the Marshwood school system, and we'll do the best we can to support what you're doing, whether it's through the wellness committee or making sure your kids get to our youth regional training in March, or anything else that you can think of in between. I've left you with the data, and some of you also have the school policy review guide, which I think can be helpful, the vaping intervention. Sydney is looking at the violation protocol. Jeff's in the room. Jeff was with our coalition down in DC. We heard the South Portland Coalition present on that policy template and how they make that work in their school system, how they use restorative justice so that students are not suspended for drug use, that they get help. And so we're happy to share their information with you. And I don't know, Jeff, if you want to add anything from that. You went to the presentation, right?
I did. What I like about the South Portland model is that it's a true collaboration. Mental health, law enforcement, and the school. So if there's a school violation, the kid's not kicked out of school, they're not put into the criminal justice system. The next day, their plan is already in place on how to get them services and what services they need. And their model is set up so that every student is treated the same, so there's no bias, with the understanding that because every student is different, every outcome is going to be different.
Right.
So the student is treated the same, so no matter what the violation is, you're going into this program the same way, with the understanding that you being you're going to come out differently than maybe your friend who was caught at the same time.
And I'll tell you, at this conference, so we went to this coalition conference in Washington with over 3,000 people, over 300 coalitions, and I think that was one of the best presentations at the conference.
Absolutely, hands down. And they would be more than happy to come down and present.
And just talk to you about how they, make it work. And I understand all schools and communities are different, but it's just nice that we can learn from somebody in our own backyard.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what I've got. If you have any other questions, Carrie, did you have a question or a comment, or anybody else?
I did.
Yes.
When I was looking at your stuff about prescription drug use,
Yes.
which is luckily not as high compared to
Yes.
these other things.
Yes.
Just curious as to whether you see that as skewed more towards things like Adderall or painkillers type of thing.
There are two. Did they take off the question? Sydney, can I borrow your survey? One of the prescription drug question at one point specified what prescription drugs it was asking about.
Okay,
Vicodin,
I'm reading through the
Oxycontin.
entire, yeah.
That's
I
okay.
just was looking through your summary.
And I,
page, just
and
curious.
I should, you're asking me some good questions that I don't have off the top of my head. And I think there's one about Adderall, there was one about Adderall and stimulants. Oh, here we go. Okay, so if you look on page 18, it asks you, how many times have you taken a prescription pain medicine without a doctor's prescription, or differently than how a doctor told you to use it? So that's the actual question. And then there's a question, during the past 30 days, how many times did you take a prescription drug? And then it's in parentheses, such as, and they combined them all: OxyContin, Percocet, Vicodin, codeine, Adderall, Ritalin, or Xanax without a doctor's prescription. So there are different numbers, there are different questions there with different response rates.
Although
So
you're lumping the pain meds with the Adderall in the second.
that's how the question is asked, yes, which is maybe not the best way to ask it.
Should be separated.
It doesn't give you a complete picture. So 43 is during your life, 44 is the past 30 days, and it's a little bit, and it's worded differently. So
It's still not a
during your
huge
life,
number, which is
prescription
good.
pain medicine, it was 13%. During the past 30 days, with a list of the specific drugs, it was 5.4%. Oops, that's your Cindy. Thank you for
It's
bringing
good
that
that-
model here.
I was just curious.
And definitely, there's a lot to kind of figure out when you look at the data, and maybe back to the very beginning of the slides, you can use this however you see fit, share it, use it to celebrate successes, think about things you might need to do differently, things that you're doing well. A really important use of this data is to get grants. You need this data to get any kind of funding. So hopefully it helps you with that, and we certainly use it to get our funding. And sharing it with young people. In the last meeting, we talked about having young people look at it and maybe even present it, I think is a great idea. So lots of things you could do with it. So thanks again.
Awesome, Sally, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sally,
Yeah, thanks for coming.
You don't have to stay, I know it's been a long day here for you, so
I'm
you
sorry, yeah, you have more things to talk about.
feel, but again, it's
Thank
been
you.
great
Yeah, thank
information
you,
for us
Sally.
to
Thank you.
work
I will
with.
try to quietly do my, thanks.
The next thing on the agenda is kind of some really some exciting things that have been happening with our guidance department. Over the last few meetings, we've talked about kind of the guidance newsletter that's been produced, and if you remember, over the summertime, we had a conversation around some opportunities that came up for students to enroll in some college courses, and kind of the question was, for kids, what's better? Is it better to take an AP class? Is it better to take an online college class? And just kind of talking about that. So Amy's here today to kind of share kind of the process and a little bit of information around how that works, and just kind of this great opportunity for kids to kind of really diversify maybe what their curriculum looks like, and maybe tailor it a little bit more towards what their goals and aspirations might be. So Amy, we'll turn it over to you.
I was hoping to connect without using this. Does anyone know how to do the connection without clicking
You
in?
know how to do it?
All right, then I guess I'll do it.
Do we still have Chromecast on that?
Yeah.
We should, yes. If you open up Chrome,
That's what I'm asking, I
Yeah.
guess, because I'm always the last.
I know it's not me. I know that. So.
my slide when it says SRO responsibilities, tech support's not on there, but.
There's a lot of data.
It's not a.
That's for sure. I'm glad that we're changing our policy. What'd you say? By week.
That's exactly right.
What's that? Should be way
I think I can scroll here. I think I can. We'll go the old-fashioned way, right?
Thank you, Sally.
Thank you.
Sally presented to the middle school staff, she presented to the wellness committee, and presented to us, so she's had a busy day with a road show, so
so many great discussions came out of that though today.
Yeah,
Good.
we talked a lot in wellness, so it was good.
Yeah,
It's really good. And we might even use some of the data for the panel when we do wellness day.
Oh, great.
Especially- Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Great.
Did any of the numbers surprise either one of you?
The vaping one kind of.
No, I mean,
knows
like
that
the most, like definitely the most outstanding numbers was vaping and the mental health, but that didn't surprise me.
It didn't surprise you?
No, like I was kind of expected.
Yeah.
But vaping was a lot, but
Vaping was really high.
yeah.
Better to see it by grade, because it seems like if they're saying, no, like for example, marijuana, if they're saying nobody uses it freshman year, 1/3 of the kids use it.
I
You
feel
could
like it'd be so
extrapolate that out to
different
say
if it was-
75% of seniors use it.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do the old fashioned way.
All right, that's okay.
I should have enough for everyone at least here. Sorry about that, but it would be an easy connection. Cool to say, but I do love my paper. It's not on the TV. That's the problem.
Thank you.
Yeah. You can be fine. Okay, hi. I'll just stand up here, I guess. Does everybody have one?
Yes.
I don't know if there's a few extras, maybe, yeah, so Rob had said that John had asked to have me come talk a little bit about the opportunities we have for students to take college level courses. And I guess I'll first start by saying I've been at Marshall for a long time, and the opportunities continue to grow and grow. That's really, really exciting. And I also feel like the counselors, when we're working with students each year, we're having our individual meetings with them from freshman to senior year, but also then doing our programming pieces, which is more of a group guidance. We're getting to know our kids such that when we hear of a course or we talk to them and learn of an interest, we can connect them to something that will make them excited about learning, excited to pursue their future goals, to connect that, or to have them be looking at that college and career readiness piece. So we can talk about the details, but I think overall, the opportunities for our kids have grown exponentially in the 10 years. I started at Marshwood in 2003, took a little break, came back, and in that amount of time, it's just really, the amount of college credits our kids are leaving with is great, especially given this day and age of the cost of college and getting them ready to come out hopefully with not so much debt. It's been great. So I had two pieces. One was the advanced placement opportunities for our students, and I think just based on what John had just said, I mean, the reality is advanced placement is a strong college level curriculum. Whether that translates into college credit is a separate thing. So that decision really comes down to the student, the family, what's best for the student in terms of their academic plan. So in general, Marshwood, we offer 10 AP classes here, taught by our teachers. Some years we've offered 11, which would include the studio art class. We offer that as a selection in the program of studies, but it depends on numbers each year. Some years we have this great group of kids really interested in art and have great skills and really want to pursue that, and other years we just don't. So that ebbs, but the 10 core classes I've listed here. And then as I'm assuming, I won't assume anything, that we require students at Marshwood to take the AP exam. That's part of our program. And certainly we have, financial assistance for students, but it's a $94 exam. And I'm the AP coordinator at the high school, and I run those exams for in 2 weeks in May. The piece of that is that we want students to be engaged in the curriculum. We want them to, get a sense of what a college level exam is going to be, right? Because it's all about getting them ready, right? And also, if they score high enough, AP exams are scored on a 1 through 5 scale. If a student gets a 3, 4, or 5, typically that's deemed that they've mastered that at a college level. But then it's really up to the selected colleges to make a decision, and they can either get credit. So if I take AP Biology and I go to UMO, I'll get 3 credits for Bio 101. Or they can get placement credit. So I'm going to UMO, I'm going to be a biology major, but I'm not going to be able to I'm not going to get credit for that biology because that's my major, and UMO is going to make sure all of my credits in the major are from UMO, but I'll be able to place out of that Bio 101 and be able to take a different biology course, okay? Some colleges will let you do both. So those are the things, and there are so many schools, we can't keep track of all that. I mean, we know that the schools that a lot of our kids go to, their policies around AP, but it even comes down to what I just said. Is it the major? Is it a gen ed? So we always encourage families to call the colleges, even when a student is maybe a sophomore or junior taking an AP, just so they're not surprised that, oh, hey, you told me I was going to get credit. It's like, no, we didn't tell you you were going to get credit. There's an opportunity for that, but it does depend on the school. And then just to give you a sense of numbers, we have 700 and, I don't know, you guys might know better, 780 total at the high school-ish. We have 109 students that are enrolled in at least one AP course. So that's to give you a sense of how many students are accessing that. The second page, if you flip it, is there's also a state-run AP program called AP for Me. And that's the University of Maine Fort Kent supervises that program and is responsible for getting teachers for those courses. But those are all online courses. And so at Marshwood, if we don't have those courses like, for instance, computer principles, we don't have computer science, maybe AP psychology. So we will have students who have those interests look at the AP for Me program selections. And if we don't offer the class, students can take the class through AP for Me. We'll make exceptions if a student's schedule is such that they can't fit what they need. We would prefer them to be taking the class with us. For instance, again, AP Biology, I'll use that. We offer it here. We expect our students to take it with us. However, if they need calc this period and this class this period and they can't fit it, we'll make an exception and allow them to take it that way. Again, they take it online through UMaine Fort Kent. They have to take the exam with us, so I have to order an exam and proctor an exam because, again, we keep that policy safe.
Amy, just for
Yeah,
clarity.
so those are the AP options.
So with AP, there used to be the AP for All a year ago, and that was, if you remember, the governor cut that I think 2 years ago, and so they kind of brought it back and renamed it the AP for Me. So like that was kind of, I know there was some conversation about that program was gone, and there was a lot of pushback that program needed to come back, so they brought it back and kind of resurrected it under a different name. So just to...
And they also cut the offerings.
Yeah.
So they went from really offering a lot of classes to condensing that. I would say, I think this year they might have offered 8. And I think the issue was, that kids were not being that successful in the online course. So I think they were really very specific about which courses they were going to offer. And they have to get teachers for those courses. So I think they were finding it hard to find teachers. And like, for instance, I'll give you an example. We had a student taking one, and the student and then the counselor could not get a hold of this teacher, kept trying, because the student was having some issues with the class. And so I think they reviewed that whole program and said, first of all, they said, we're going to forget the whole program. And then I think they had such pushback, especially for some real rural communities. I mean, we're blessed that we can have 10 AP classes. There's some schools that aren't able to support any. So I think they brought it back, but consolidated it. So that's the AP piece. Then the other opportunities, and again, this has sort of taken on some different names, so bear with me in the past couple of years. The new name of the college program for the state of Maine, the new Maine system, is called Explore EC. So that was rebranded, if you will, about a year and a half ago. So that's an opportunity for students to take college-level courses in various capacities. There are 3 sort of branches of the Explore EC, and I'm just going to make sure. One is the concurrent enrollment, which means that they have college professors come into high schools and teach college-level courses. So for instance, a professor at USM could say, I'm going to come in to Marshwood, I'm going to teach the class, Or we could train one of our teachers or have our teachers certified to be able to teach that class. And that means they're coming into our building and teaching the class during our school day, the students getting credit for the class at the high school level and at the college level. The other side of that is there's a bridge program that they work with the CTE centers, the career tech centers. So Sanford works with them, we don't work directly with them, which allows Sanford programming to embed college level courses into their actual programming. So for instance, precision machining may also allow a student to earn 3 credits at YCCC because they also offer that program. And it's not the only thing they're doing at Sanford, but they're doing their work at Sanford plus this course throughout the year. So those are the 2 pieces we're not involved with at Marshwood. The one program we are involved with is called Aspirations, and that's the program that blankets the state and really allows students to take courses in many capacities, whether it's on campus, online. I put some eligibility criteria. It really is open to most students. They don't push back a lot. They rely on the counselors, they rely on the parents, they rely on the students' grades somewhat. So these eligibility criteria are somewhat bendable, but again, our goal is for a student to have a good experience and not to get in too far over their head. So we really walk them through it around, this is what to expect, and this is, you would be great for this, or you may want to have another year under your belt. Juniors and seniors are eligible to take these classes. And again, they'll get a transcript from the college or the university, as well as get credit here at Marshwood. I've had students, I had a student last year go up to USM last summer and take a class. We've had students, we currently have students taking classes online through UMaine Fort Kent, UMaine Augusta. And again, there are some really interesting, very specific classes. It's not just Bio 101. Again, it's an opportunity for students to pursue an interest. The Academy program falls under Aspirations, but this is a name that if you've had kids who maybe have graduated from Marshwood, this used to be the only thing in town. It was called Academy, and it's directly tied to University of Maine Orono. So the Explore EC program sort of took that under its umbrella, but a lot of Academy still stands alone as a program underneath that, just for UMO. And so Academy, again, allows students to take, it's all online. They used to be required to go to the campus for an orientation, and they felt that was a barrier for kids to go all the way up to Orono. So that was great. They eliminated that, so more of our kids have been able to access that program. And again, it's UMO credit, and I don't know how well you understand the state sort of system. UMO is the flagship, and so sometimes they're a little tight about taking credits from other schools. So the fact that our kids can get UMO credit, and a lot of our kids go to UMO, is great. And there's no questions asked. If they take it at UMO, Academy program, they get the credit if they walk through the door of UMO as a student. The only couple things here is all of these classes are free for tuition. Students just have to pay for books and any other incidentals or lab fees. They do now, this happened, I want to say 1 or 2 years ago, they do now have to pay a $25 per credit fee. So for a 3-credit course, it's under $100. And those are some examples. World politics, the art of listening to music, intro to leadership. We do proctor the exams for those classes. So I know a student came in a couple of weeks ago at the mid-year taking the astronomy course, and our counselor set them up and was there to be able to proctor it. And then lastly, so they're at the next level is the YCCC dual enrollment. And I can say Great Bay, for anyone from New Hampshire, also has a program. It's just not as generous, if you will. So and I will say YCCC has been generous, or the Maine Community College System, in that our New Hampshire students have been able to access this program. This is the only program they can access. They can't access Academy, Aspirations, any of those. That's a year-by-year funding thing. But again, it's dual enrollment. They do have criteria for certain classes. A student might need to support going into, let's say, English Comp with a certain SAT score. If not, they need a certain AccuPlacer score. Again, breaking down barriers. YCCC allows us to use their account to allow our students to take an AccuPlacer test if we proctor it, so they don't have to go to Wells, to make sure that they can pass it to get into the class. So again, they've been really, there's a person, John Hall, who's just been great about our kids taking classes. The other really exciting pieces, and again, this is a big change from 2003, our kids take classes here. So we've been offering 2 YCCC classes on campus here at Marshwood. We've had some wonderful instructors, one sitting in the room right here. And our kids really have, they don't have to travel. They're here one day a week after school. They're getting that experience, and they're earning dual, one college, high school credit and 3 college credits per course. They can earn up to 12 credits a year, so 2 classes each semester. And again, that's free of charge except for the book. The counselors have been really good about trying to almost create a lending library for books because you know how expensive college books are, and sometimes, again, that's a barrier, and we don't want barriers. So, if a student, I know one of my students took an intro to psych class. The next semester, I knew my student was taking it. I kind of got them together and said, hey, can I borrow the book? Oh, sure, you can. And again, that saved that student the money of the book, and it was just a really nice thing to see someone do. So that's dual enrollment. And then the last thing I want to briefly talk about is there's a program called Embark, which we again work with our kids. It's a program through the Community College System of Maine that identifies students, and again, this doesn't always have to be the criteria, but some of the criteria include first-generation students. And this Embark program, Kate Brand is the woman who's been coming here for the last 5-7 years. She is fabulous. She knows everything there is to know about Maine community colleges and their programs. So students, we identify students, and again, back to our work with students, we may identify a student during a freshman interview and write Embark on our interview sheet. Because then when they become juniors, we can say, hey, we want you to participate in this. So it's open to juniors. We identify the students. We usually try to involve parents because sometimes we don't get enough students. So the parents are the ones that say, hey, go and do that. But really, it offers another layer of support for a student. These students meet with this counselor one time during their junior year, 3 times during their senior year, and provide another level of guidance. They can help them fill out a FAFSA, which are, school counselors know a little. We don't know the nuts and bolts. We don't also have the time. So this person does that. This person talks to them about options, just like we do, but again, that other layer. But the best thing is if that student enrolls in a community college, they stay connected with Kate. So that's, again, another support to make that transition easier. There are also usually six scholarships for Marshwood students. They're $2,000 scholarships. You can do the math. It's enough to almost pay for a semester plus. And so we have about 18 students who participate every year, and 6, or about a third of them, get that scholarship. And it's just been a real great point of entry for students who have financial need. So that's Embark. And then I think I've alluded to some of this. Just we talk this up all the time. Why take early college, whether AP or college courses on campus or online? All the research and data supports that if a student can experience that, get that confidence, they will persist, they will be more successful. We always like to say to kids, Marshwood, the people around you. We're here to help you while you try these college courses. Once you get there, it's going to feel a little different, so let's give it a try now. And you have the resources around you to help you support that. It takes away that sort of nervousness of, can I do college? Hey, I just did a course. That was easy. Let me try the next one. So I think, again, it's that experience for students to really have them test the water. And some test it and say, I'm not quite ready yet. I do want to maybe take a year off. Some test it and say, gosh, I want to keep going. And we've had kids leave this school, with some with 20 college credits. And they're almost, a third of the way, they've got it's great. So again, we really try to push that. And then just briefly, I think one of the other things, just we do offer a couple of other opportunities that they're not college credit bearing opportunities, but independent studies. We've had a few students access like that openware, like I think MIT, Johns Hopkins have all these curriculums that are open online, and students can maybe connect with a teacher here and say, hey, I want to do this differential equation one through MIT. Mr. Gronke, can you be my independent study mentor and help, just guide me with this, but the curriculum is online. So we have students that do that. We have students that create their own experiences as independent studies. And then we also really encourage students to look at summer enrichment programs in areas that they're interested in, from journalism to engineering. UMO is a great engineering program. That actually is free of charge. Some of these are fairly expensive, so again, sometimes that is a barrier to some of our students. And then just how we reach out to students, I've alluded to that. We meet with our students. We're constantly, I think the advisors, our advisory program, are constantly saying, hey, you mentioned that the YCCC class enrollments are open, and we're sending things home, and our website and our newsletter. So we really try to get the word out that these are opportunities, and kids are taking advantage of them because the numbers are amazing.
Thanks, Amy.
So that's all I had. I don't know if anyone has questions.
Any questions?
Sorry about the tech difficulty. Thank you, whoever.
Thank you.
Just amazing to see the kind of how opportunities have evolved.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, just so much has changed, even in a relatively short amount of time, that's what is available.
So you kind of just mentioned that you send, blasts out like email and stuff. So is there a point where the students actually find out what's available? Because I know, obviously, I've had a couple kids go through, and I didn't know half of these things were available. And I would have thought that they would have taken advantage of that. And I don't know if they didn't know or it wasn't right for them, and I'm not going back to figure that out.
Right.
But do the kids... So the kids know, and the parents know. I mean, like I said, I'm on the school board, and I don't know that these things are available.
Yeah. Well,
so I just wonder, is it constant? Or, I know you said, well, we write down that this kid should do this. At what point do you involve the parents or tell the kid? Is it till junior year, or is it before junior? I'm just wondering how that all gets rolled out, and how consistently year after year it gets rolled out, I guess.
It gets rolled out. We find that we send a lot out and we get no responses sometimes. So like for the YCCC classes, I know we send out to students and parents that we're running these classes.
Yeah.
If your child's interested, please let us know.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
We get those.
Yeah.
I do remember those, but I guess and maybe some of them are new, but,
Yeah, and I will say that this
Didn't know.
Connect EC, that was new as of last year.
Yeah.
So we haven't, we probably could do a better job advertising that. I think a lot of it, given the numbers we have, I know we work with David Leaks pretty closely, so some of his students are identified, and he's kind of pushing those classes. And then a lot of it's word of mouth, so a lot of the kids are coming in like, hey, I heard that. But yeah, I mean, that's a good suggestion in terms of being more, but I will say the Academy was really the only game in town for a while, and we, I think for some of our students, online is pretty tough.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I do think that there has been a little bit of a shift too, because of AP kind of being the only game in town for so long. And I actually, some friends of mine who have younger children have been asking about dual enrollment or AP, and I would really push them towards dual enrollment, just because I know with the experience of my two children, the amount of APs they took, one got credit for all of them, the other went to a school they'd only take 4, and they still haven't worked them into a schedule. So, it wasn't lost, because it's more challenging work and all of that, and I'm not saying it was a waste, but I wonder if they may have been more willing to take an actual college course as a transfer. I don't know. But I think it's more likely.
I think one of the exciting things with the guidance newsletter is creating a vehicle where parents can, have that information. And it seems like from the feedback I think we've all received is that there's great momentum behind that. So maybe that would be a great vehicle to start incorporating that just to get that kind of word out, get that in parents' hands. And I just applaud the guidance department for kind of taking that step. It is another layer of the work that we do, but I think it's really going to be, if we can establish a communication method that works and activates parents, that's huge. That's kind of the secret sauce, so to speak. So.
Absolutely, because I think parents are looking for options. I really
absolutely
think they
right.
are.
I know in my house, I can't rely on the kids to
Oh,
tell me.
yeah. Well,
What did
and
you say? Can't rely on the kids to tell me everything.
And they always, and a lot of kids don't know what questions to ask. And like you said, some of the hesitant ones don't think that maybe they qualify, or whatever the instance might be. So
I would say it's nice they got rid of the required visit to Aurora.
yeah,
Because that was kind of.
yeah.
This packet is really awesome.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
every
yeah.
parent should have this.
Great
Yeah.
Like
information.
freshman year, here you go.
Really great.
I think
Yeah.
it's awesome.
I feel like a lot of kids know about like most of the things in this packet. I just think it's hard to because like you were saying, like some of the courses are like so specific and there's so many of them.
Yeah,
Like do you
there's so
remember that day when like
Yeah.
Mr. Leach showed you and Riley
Yeah,
that
there's,
list of things and you were like
hundreds of them.
oh my gosh, like some of the, and it's hard to get like all of them.
Right.
And so maybe some kids are interested in that, but it's just like they're aware that it's there, but they don't know that they can take like I don't think Riley knew that she had the chance to take like an astrology course or something, and then she found out.
Yeah.
So,
But maybe with what you just said might be an idea to maybe
Yeah, 'cause
send this out to parents. I mean, Amy, this is an incredible document. I mean,
It
it's
really
so
is.
helpful.
It's so helpful.
It's perfect the way it is.
I mean, maybe,
change anything.
Maybe
Yeah.
send a mass email out to parents and say, hey, look, as you start to go into course selection, here's some opportunities, because I mean it is
Just a reminder.
this is so clear.
Yeah,
when
it
it's
is
both
really
questions,
good. This is
so,
awesome.
yeah.
Yep.
and you're
It's-
right. This is
It's
like
awesome.
It's like the good time of year to do it because of course selection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
And I think the variety is what will keep some children who maybe aren't as excited about school more excited.
For sure.
So, yeah, this is fabulous.
Yes.
Thank you so
Thank
much for
you
your time.
very
Awesome.
much.
Thank you. But last but certainly not least, okay, I just want to introduce Officer Jeff Upton, who is our current school resource officer here at Marshwood High School. He is at Marshwood High School Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
And some Fridays.
And some Fridays. And then Sergeant Ron Lund is the sergeant from the Elliott Police Department. Sergeant Lund has been an incredible resource for Marshwood Middle School and Elliott Elementary School for us. Our last meeting, we talked a little bit about the school resource officer grant that was available, and we just had some further questions. So they put together kind of a quick presentation to talk a little bit about kind of the role of the school resource officer. I think it also gave me an opportunity to think a little bit and really kind of narrow down kind of the scope of what we would be talking about and kind of what roles maybe a school resource officer at Marshwood Middle School would really activate. And part of this would be part of the grant writing process if we choose to go down that road. But just to hear it from me, I think some of the areas that are really important that we struggle with, where would be a great partnership, would be around attendance and truancy with students. We've been really spending a great deal of time on our attendance rates. The state of Maine measures that by chronic absenteeism, which is anybody who's absent more than 10% of the time. And our chronic absenteeism last year was really high, and something that we want to be able to work with. And there's been some changes in laws, and we're spending a lot of time as an administrative team working on that. But really, that partnership maybe with a resource officer would be important. Other part is curriculum development, is really spending time within the classroom. So we talk about cyberbullying and talk about the legal process and social studies classes. I mean, there's some real opportunities that we take advantage of at the high school that I think would be really important for giving students an opportunity to kind of see a different light on things. Obviously, safety and safety protocols are working across the district, but we currently work where Jeff is responsible for school safety as well as kind of our security systems. And then anytime we have fire drills or we do lockdown drills, they're really instrumental with that. Jeff and Ron both and I attended the ALICE training back in November, where we talked about kind of really looking at how we handle lockdowns kind of going forward. So that institutional knowledge is really an important part. Mental health issues we've talked about a lot, and really that wraparound, opportunity where, law enforcement a lot of times is involved with families and adds another layer to be able to have that wraparound support for families, and mental illness seems to be one of those areas where, really benefit us. And then just really the family community wraparound where when we can partner around families to be able to, meet their needs, but also be able to provide, other layers of support. And we can't be all things to all people, but at the same time, I think that sometimes a different perspective and be able to have those kind of open our arms a little bit to be able to get the supports around people who may need kind of to differentiate that, just as we would for kids, we differentiate for families. So kind of if we had like 5 big picture things, those are some goals that I would really think as we kind of go forward. So I'll turn it over to the gentleman. And
thank you. I
guys.
just wanted to, on behalf of Chief Moya, thank you for having us. He wanted to be here, but he's home sick with the flu that's going around. So hopefully we'll see him sometime this week. Secondly, I just wanted to thank, John. We have a great partnership. Our schools are amazing. Tony, we have a fabulous working relationship with him and Mo. And, John has been instrumental with the success of some of the issues that we've had in our town. We had a huge problem with just drop-off. And it would lock down our state road for a half hour, 45 minutes, and people just trying to go to work were, sitting in traffic for 20 minutes. So John was a huge help with coming up with that game plan, and Matt sees it occasionally when, I think there's no sitting on State Road anymore. And then, he's been instrumental with, since he's taken charge or change of the command, that school safety is a priority for him as well as us. Cameras in the schools, Al's training, Crisis Go. Jeff is instrumental here at the high school, and if there's a problem in Elliott, we're usually the first phone call. And a lot of that has to do with relationships, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. So thank you. Just want to thank him publicly.
You didn't say you were going to do that.
You ready?
You're up.
All right, well.
Sally actually did our presentation.
Sally
She sold it for us. So.
Well, I just love it because I'm on Sally's advisory board. I'm a YCCC instructor for the dual, so this works out for me tonight.
Yeah.
So what's an SRO? Everything. So we're going to get into what an SRO is. What do I do here in the high school? I got to be honest, a middle school SRO for me has been a goal for quite some time. I see a lot of benefits to it and a partnership with my position here. So we're going to talk about that. By no means is this all encompassing. This does not cover everything. So if there's any questions, feel free to throw them out there. We're here to answer those if there's anything that we can help clarify. The information you're going to see, a lot of it comes from the National Association of School Resource Officers, which is kind of the gold standard for SROs in the United States. I am a member. They hold great trainings, great resources. As a member, you can get MOUs, bylaws, all kinds. Whatever you need as an SRO, they've got for you, and they will come to you to do trainings. And again, they're the gold standard. So when we talk about what an SRO is, I highlighted a few things. A school resource officer by federal definition is a career law enforcement officer. We are sworn police officers. Some folks get confused with an SSO, which is a school security officer. Those are unarmed, unsworn. We're full-time police departments for the jurisdiction that covers the school. Obviously, I'm for South Berwick. If we were to do a middle school, that would be an LA police officer. That's why we're both represented here tonight. So it is a full-time law enforcement officer. We're a community-oriented policing assignment, okay? Our job isn't to go in and enforce all the laws and arrest kids and school to prison pipeline. We're not looking for that. Our job, I think this is the #1 community-oriented policing position there is. You have officers that go out there and do meetings with civic groups and things like that. I think this is the #1 community policing position that a police department can have. So that's why I wanted to highlight that. And it's in collaboration with schools. I'm not working for the police department in the school. I'm working with the police department with the school. Okay, I'm here to bridge that gap, and that's what an SRO does. It's that link between the two. Because like Sally said, it takes a village, right? It's that approach. So this position allows the school, the town, the community, all of us to link up together. The role of an SRO. So NASRO, again, believes in a certain structure. It's providing a safe learning environment, right? That's why we're here. We're here to educate our kids. But we're also here to build our students up to be fabulous adults, to be the best adults they can be, right? So what we do is help provide that environment for them. We foster positive relationships with you. That's huge. Law enforcement in the news doesn't always look so hot, right? I think we can all agree with that. This here is an opportunity for police officers to have contact with students in a positive way. Again, I'm not running down the halls going, put your backpack away. Why aren't you in class? Where's your hall pack? I mean, do I do that? You've never seen me run down the hall in your entire high school career, have you? Okay? This is about making those connections and having those positive influence. NASRO looks at the triad concept, that they believe a good SRO is an educator, we are a mentor or a counselor, and we're a law enforcement officer. We cover all of those. We wear all three of those hats. We're an educator because we might be in a classroom being a guest lecturer. I love that. It's a lot of fun. But we're also in the hallways just talking. Student walks up and says, hey, I just got my license. I have a question about this. Okay, great. I can answer that. Or, hey, I got pulled over last night and things didn't go so well. I was scared. The officer said some stuff I don't understand. Can you help me with that? Absolutely. Or, I got in a fight with my parents last night. I can't go home today. I'm scared. What do I do? Well, guess what? I'm not an educator there. I'm a counselor. I'm helping them through that. They're giving me all this information. And they're kind of venting. And we're that safe space for them to come in. They don't have to worry about the school rule violations, about anything, skipping class. If there's an issue, they can come see their SRO, and we're going to help them out. It's a little small. What does that actually mean to be an SRO? So Mr. Caverly already alluded to, part of my job is to maintain the security of the building. I do that by walking the building. I check the entry points. I'm in charge of the camera systems. I'm in charge of the door locking system. So anybody that has a fob for any of the school buildings, if you have an issue with the fob, that goes through me. If there's a problem with the system, that goes through me. I have all of that. It is centralized in my office. Camera systems, we use that a lot with administration for various issues. So that's part of what I do. I'm also in the halls. I'm visible. I'm moving about the student body as they're changing classes, so that that I'm out there and keeping an eye on things. Honestly, sometimes I don't even think they see me. The students are so focused in getting from point A to point B, from A pod to F pod, upstairs to downstairs. They got to get their lockers in, in that 4 minutes. But I'm there. I work with the staff in mental health issues, and that could be a student in crisis. And what's that look like, and how can we help that student get the services they need? It could be education. It could be talking to faculty and staff about how do we handle students that may be in a mental health crisis. Mental health obviously is a major concern. The survey shows it, so it's something we have to respond to. And I'm also, part of the planning for any response in terms of emergency responses, or again, how we're dealing with any crises. And we can go through the whole list. Speaking with students is a big part of my day, and I'll talk to students about anything, and they will talk to me about anything. I believe there's some magic force on my door that removes all filters when folks come into my office, and I love it, because it's about breaking down barriers. I really focus on the title. I'm a school resource officer because I want to be a resource to everybody. Parents, students, community members, faculty, staff, anybody that needs anything, that's why I'm here. And again, it's about bridging those gaps. It's about filling in those cracks. If guidance is worried about a student, they can come to me and say, hey, do you know if there's been any any police involvement lately? Or they come in and say, hey, they talked about the police being at their house last night. They live in Elliott. Do you think, can you call over to Elliott and find out? And then I call Sergeant London and say, hey, what happened last night? 9 times out of 10, he's already called me and said, hey, Jeff, just keep an eye on Joey today, because we were at the house last night. So I truly believe if you don't have an officer in your building, that communication isn't happening. If you have a question where, geez, should we call, should we not call Department of Health and Human Services, Child Protective, should we call the police? Sometimes in schools, if you don't have that direct connection, that direct relationship, because it's about relationships, those calls don't get made. So I think having the person in the building takes away that barrier completely. It's easy enough to walk across the hall to my office or call me on the phone and just say, hey, Jeff, what do you think? Good so far? Feel free to jump.
Yeah, for the middle school, Sally really touched on this. You know, the evidence-based prevention education, schools around us, York, Noble Middle, they offer DARE. Noble they do it at 5th grade, but DARE also offers a middle school packet. And basically what that does is, you know, touches on bullying, which, you know, that number was just so clear. Bullying, making good choices. Some of the stuff that we see, Jeff sees, you know, are vaping issues. And I think some of those numbers that Sally was talking about is the middle school might be able to access it or gain access to it because they have an older brother or sister or cousin or something like that in the high school that might be using it. And so for us at the middle school, you know, Tony and Kevin do a fantastic job running that school, but it's just one more tool in the toolbox where we can start to build those relationships with the students so that when they see us, when they talk to us, they have confidence in that, you know, if I go to Jeff, I'm going to be able to get that help and be able to talk to him about something that's going on. Because occasionally, when Jeff is out working the street and goes to a domestic disturbance, he can go and talk to one of his students because they know and trust him. And that's what we're doing. We're just building relationships.
Ronnie, can I say one thing real
Yes.
quick? One of the things that we haven't mentioned that's really important also from an administrative standpoint is that when a crime occurs in the schools, of finding out what's a reportable crime. And so there are times, you know, I think a few years ago with some questions of that came up and really trying to create that filter. So being able to run things by, you know, to call Ron and be able to say, hey, look, this is what happened. How would you like us to handle this? Sometimes they might say, hey, look, don't do anything else. We need to come investigate. We need to do our questioning. Or they might say, you know what, John, that's pretty minor. I don't think, you know, you're fine to kind of go ahead and handle it at this time. So there is kind of a filter at times where there is some murky areas around how do we respond to certain situations. So to collaborate ahead of time, you know, honestly, a few years ago, we felt like, and you know, Dr. Nash spent a lot of time on this, but we felt like, hey, look, if we could do a whole investigation and then tell you a crime occurred, we were doing the police department a favor because we did the investigation for them, and really, in a lot of ways, made it much harder for them. So just to try to find that communication. So sorry to interrupt, but I think that's important.
If I could jump on that, though, again, just from my experience here, to have those quick conversations at the beginning allows us to sometimes do joint investigations. And I'll tell you, my administration over the years, they're doing better investigations today than when I started 18 years ago because we've learned from each other. And they know what questions I'm going to ask, so now they ask them. We don't have to have that setup meeting. They'll sit there and they'll hit all the points that they know I'm going to need in an investigation, which is giving them great information as well. It's a great team effort. And there's been, I don't know how many times over the years, Tony's called me or Kevin's called me and said, hey, I'm going to punt this to you just for some thoughts. Let's talk it out. And at the end of the conversation, it's, you know what, yeah, give Elliot a call. I think if nothing else, let's document it. You're doing a great job, but let's document it. Or, you know what, just to protect yourself, I think you want them there with you. And I think it works out really well. And again, to have that relationship down the hall rather than at the end of a phone line is just going to be a positive and continue to build those relationships that really have been getting much stronger lately. And I think to talk about the DARE or some sort of prevention, I think the middle school setting is a great opportunity for an officer to be in a classroom with a teacher, or maybe running the classroom on their own and it being all about education. It's all about learning and helping these students grow. It's not necessarily about, I'm a police officer and I'm here to again, enforce the criminal laws, because that's the last box that we want to check when we talk about what our goals are. And middle school kids are so impressionable. We looked at those numbers. Sally talked about how the numbers, could be much higher from that middle school to that high school age. So if we can get an officer with those younger kids, building those relationships, I think we're going to be far ahead. And I think we're going to see those numbers get better. Just some real quick, some of the stuff that being the SRO here at the high school has allowed me to do. Again, I've helped out with some things going on down at the middle school. I've met with students at the Great Works School. Mr. Bunnell is great in calling and saying, hey, Jeff, we've got a kiddo. He loves to call them kiddos.
Yep.
We got a kiddo down here that I think could use a little chat. Would you mind coming down? So I slide down there. We have a quick chat. The parent sometimes is there, but is always aware, and those are great. We mentioned Crisis Go earlier, which I believe you're all familiar with. So I'm the district kind of go-to person for that. I work with all the schools on their safety planning. The Elliott schools, Sergeant Lund is great in coming in and helping with those as well. I mentioned I sit on the advisory board for Choose to Be Healthy, so I'm allowed to kind of bring that Choose to Be Healthy stuff here and bridge that gap, kind of takes down that barrier. Sally talked about Gina hosting the CERT class here today, over the last couple of days, and the beauty of it is Gina calls me and says, Jeff, can I? And we make it happen, and it works out really well. So it's about those connections. We are forming a Maine School Resource Officers Association, and somehow, I'm not quite sure, I was recently voted to president, but I don't say that for grandstanding. I say that so that I can talk about the networking again and how important it is to make contacts and to be that resource. And my hope with this Maine School Resource Officers Association is that we can unite the SROs throughout the state so that we can build this program and make it stronger, which is going to benefit all the schools. Because that's our goal, is to make these SROs the best SROs they can be throughout the state. And we want a York County SRO and a Worcester County SRO to be on the same page. So we're heading in that direction, and thankfully, Southborough Police and Marshwood has allowed me to participate in that program.
For us, just if the grant process is accepted and something that you all choose to go forward with, this is kind of just an overall of kind of what we're thinking. Obviously, a posting. We want, we're not going to hire an officer day one that has zero experience. We want them with some life experience. We want them to have some experience in law enforcement, to know or to already have some of those relationships already there. It might be someone already sitting at our police department. It might not be. But in that, we'll have a selection committee where it will be a blend of law enforcement, community folks. It will be school board, school officials, things like that. We'll go through and we'll review the applicants. We'll end up coming up with oral board scenario where someone will sit around tables like this and someone will come in and sit in the hot seat and get fired some questions. And through that, the committee will then give their top 3 or 4 selections, and then those individuals will be called in for kind of a final interview with my chief and the superintendent. They make the pick together. And some of the training that's associated with that is the NASRO, the basic SRO, right away within that first year. Crisis intervention training for us in law enforcement is a 40-hour class that deals specifically with individuals in crisis and what options there are for you as a police officer. Obviously, we'll be working with school counselors and guidance and things like that. And So we want them to have that ability to de-escalate a situation.
And NASRO now has created an adolescent mental health training that is focused purely on working with adolescents in a mental health crisis. It's a great class. They just rolled it out maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago.
So eventually going to the advanced SRO, and basically they come out of that program being able to go out into the classrooms and instruct and things like that.
The selection process for me is one of the most important aspects. You will find in some departments, this is a retirement job. It's a great schedule, no more midnights, no more weekends. Snow days, I gotta go in and drive around and help people get pulled out of the snowbanks, no big deal. Vacations, you can take off, it's a lot more flexible. The problem with that is you want an officer that's still motivated. Not to say a retirement job, an older officer isn't, but you really have to sit and look at the motivation for that officer that wants that position. Why are they, do they really want to get in and work with the community within the school, because you're your own community, but then also branch out and do those other things. It's not just about walking up and down the halls. So I think the selection process really you have to fine tune it down to make sure you're able to get that officer that really wants to be here and is a good fit for this position.
It's not for everybody.
It's not, absolutely.
It's a different type of position. I think that's why the collaborative piece is so important.
Yep.
And we've seen around our jurisdictions around us, sometimes, I've had friends that were school resource officers, and, students would come up to me and say, Ron, what is up with this guy? He's a little stormtrooper walking around, and that's not what we want. So it happens sometimes, just like in life, there's good teachers and bad teachers, but traditionally we want to have that right fit for the building so that we're there as a resource. And those processes will be reviewed, annually. We'll have sit downs and say, hey, is this working? Is it not? Is there an issue and things like that. But because of our great relationships that we have, that I think it's going to be something that we won't have to worry about.
Absolutely. Communication is already set up. So just a quick rundown of what's around us, and Sergeant Lund had already kind of alluded to this, but Noble has a high school and a middle school SRO currently in place. Wells has a high school and middle school. York is high school, middle school. Sanford, both high school and middle school. Trapebugs is just the high school. Kennebunk has 6 SROs currently. They just, I believe, moved to that model this year. We don't have a real hard, accurate number on how many SROs are in the state. Somewhere between 75, 80, sometimes people are putting it up to about 84, 85. That's, again, one of the goals of the SRO Association is to kind of nail that down and get a more accurate count. Currently, there are 22 school districts in the state that employ 2 or more SROs, and there are 6 more districts actively looking to add a second SRO. That does not include our district or Bath, who actually, Bath gave me those numbers, because they're looking to add a middle school SRO as well. So it's a growing trend to put officers in the middle school.
It's kind of like a feeder program for a sports team. Obviously, Marshall, we have a great football program, but this is, at the middle school level, and it's just going to help build those relationships and the respect for the officers and the trust. And so when they transition up to Jeff here at the high school, we've already communicated, over the past couple of years, hey, this young man, young woman really needs assistance. So.
And just to kind of fill in, just from last week's meeting, is that the opportunity that we're talking about is a grant that would not go into effect next year. It would be the following year. The application would be due in August, I believe, and then it would be the following school year, where it would be 3 years, where the grant would pay for 75% of the position, and we would share the cost between Elliott and ourselves. And then that 4th year, we would then take over the responsibility of that cost. So this is really, the question being, do we want to go forward with this grant opportunity to see if it's the right fit for us? So whether we have the grant or we don't have the grant, we'll continue to collaborate. I don't want, it's not an all or nothing, but I just think this is kind of the question as we kind of go forward. So does the board have any questions for Sergeant Leonard or Officer Upton?
We're lucky to have this leadership.
Well, and I gotta say, we are lucky to have this school district. I mean, I know I'm a little biased being a Marshall grad, but,
We all are.
but I've been in this position now for 19 years this spring, and I've met a lot of SROs over the years, and I've got it good. I'm not gonna lie, there's some great communication here, some great collaboration, and like Mr. Caverly said, regardless of what the grant decision is or the position, we're going to continue doing the work that we're doing. We're going to continue working together to do tech presentations at the middle school so the parents know what apps they need to keep an eye on. We're going to continue going down to the lower grades and making sure those kids are safe in how they respond in fire evacuations, and if we move towards, or as we move towards a new emergency response protocol, we're going to continue that communication moving forward regardless of, and if there's an officer there or not. So we're real lucky to have such a supportive school district. So thank you.
We just have a quick review of, what we have now and who's where, and then what the grant is for.
So currently we have Officer Upton, who's at the high school,
Right.
basically
Got that.
4 days a week.
Yeah.
And so, and right now, we don't have anybody officially that works directly with the schools in Elliott or middle school or Elliott Elementary School. Jeff helps with those, but really, Sergeant Len has really stepped up and really been working quite a bit of time, particularly with Elliott Elementary School and also at the middle school. And so, what the thought process is that if we apply for the grant, then we would have someone in Elliott and then in South Berwick. A lot of times, particularly when a crime occurs, so for instance, a school bus. When there's an issue on a school bus, the question is where did it occur? So if the bus is going on the late run, let's say, if it's in Elliott, then it's the Elliott Police Department that needs to investigate that. So there are some boundary issues. I think we can collaborate, but there are some boundary issues where, as Officer Upton kind of said, hey, look, you want to give Ron a call about that just because it happened in Elliott. So the hope would be to be able to, apply for the grant and receive the grant, to be able to have a person in Elliott to work with both schools in Elliott, more so the middle school, but also to be kind of that resource for the elementary school.
Okay,
That would be
got
all.
it.
So,
We don't have that now, is what you're saying?
that's correct. That is correct.
Okay. You would think that we did, the way that you were talking just about how much is being provided,
Yeah.
but it's not.
We've developed some really, some strong collaboration, over the last
Okay,
little.
but it's not an official SRO position?
That's correct.
Okay, got
And
it.
if I remember from last meeting, the grant is 75% of the officer's salary for the first 3 years.
That's correct.
And the town and the district would pick up the other 25%.
That's correct. We'd share that.
Moving in the fourth year to the town and the school board sharing equally, 50-50.
I think that's, we haven't come to those exact numbers, but that's
the
the
thinking.
ballpark of what we would
And
do.
the town knows of this?
Yeah, and I got to say, Chief LaJoy has been really clear about how he feels about, he's mentioned that a number of times to us, and he just kind of talks about what other districts are doing, and then Chief Moya has just been instrumental in kind of seeking out the grant. He's the one who approached me. I mean, he's been really proactive around. I mean, he really wanted to be here tonight because I think this is, in a lot of ways, this is his baby.
Yeah.
It's important to him, but unfortunately he was sick, but that's the plan, so.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Yeah,
I
thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much for being here.
I had some concerns, frankly, from our last meeting, and you guys answered them all. Thank you.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
obviously, if any other questions pop up, we're both readily available. I mean, I'm here. So
We know where to find you.
that's right. Walk in the front door, turn left.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
We've had a lot of information. I apologize, but there's been so much, but that's.
No, it's great.
There's a lot of.
So
Kind of
helpful.
all connected.
Yeah, it is kind of all connected.
It was interesting today, was everything has been connected through the
Yes.
whole-
Yeah.
the wellness committee through now.
Yeah, that's okay.
16 motions by 9?
Yeah.
No, we can't do 60
Ready?
motions by
Set?
now. Go.
So that concludes my report. I don't know if you want to give an abbreviated student report tonight?
Oh, we
can do the full sports
Yeah,
report.
yeah.
It's really short.
Once you
Okay.
guys give your report, though, go home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Absolutely.
Yes,
Go
you don't
home.
need to sit through all the motions.
Yeah, go home. As soon as you give your report, just both of you head on out, please.
All right, it's really short, but tomorrow, I leave for Tanzania along with six other students, and Grace Jacobs, who's been like the main facilitator, Nina, Darren, and Lucas Stewart, and I'm very excited for that. I think I've talked to you guys about it. The plan is we're gonna like rebuild the school. We're also gonna like go on a safari and see the people and the kids and everything. So once I go on that, I will definitely report back on how that was.
Maybe even some pictures?
Yes,
for
no,
sure.
slideshow is mandatory.
Slideshow, yeah.
Don't you dare show your face in this room again until you bring that slideshow.
And then the dodgeball tournament is official. I just got word of that. So it's definitely going to be on Friday, March 13th, from 4 to 6 p.m. in the gym. There will be, the teams can be teams of 6, and it's $10 per person. And all the proceeds are going to go fund the Australia wildfires. We haven't picked an organization, like a specific charity that we're going to donate to, but we have a few in mind, so once we figure that out, I will definitely let you guys know. General admission just to watch. If you don't want to be on a team but you want to come to the tournament, it's just $2 to watch, and that will go to the wildfires as well. And yeah, you need to fill out a registration form, but it's very easy, and you can have a team name and a team like uniform, and there will be prizes for those. So if you guys have any questions, you can just let me know and I can probably answer them. And then also the Marshwood versus Noble quiz show is going to be airing on Thursday, April 9th. I don't know what time.
It's
or
Marshwood
channel.
versus Noble, are you kidding?
Marshwood versus Noble.
Oh my
gosh,
that's
funny.
High stakes.
When is that?
Thursday, April 9th.
I think it's usually at 8 o'clock
I think so too, yeah.
on PBS. Or
Yeah.
not on PBS, on MTVN.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's all I got.
Thanks, Katie.
Okay, I love that. So last week at regionals, wrestling came in 3rd overall, and Sean Moriarty, Zach Mercier, and Carson Goodwin, they all won in their weight classes, so that's really good. And then now they're competing at states this Saturday at Sanford. And last week at Southwestern's for track, Ella Nelson broke the open 600-yard record for the 2nd time this year. And Luke Kowalson was named this year's Outstanding Senior Division Male Athlete, which is really cool. That's only given to one person. And they also have states on Saturday. And for ski team, the states championship has been moved to Friday and Saturday instead of Thursday and Friday. And yesterday, Unified Basketball, they had a game versus Kennebunk, and they're playing York tomorrow here at 3:45.
That's that last home game.
Yeah.
Yep, just so people were wondering.
If there's no school, will it be rescheduled though?
If there was no school, it'd be rescheduled.
Good.
3:45, I think, but you want to be there at 3:30 for the announcements. That's the best part.
Hockey's playing Mount
Ararat.
On Saturday at 4 in Dover, and that's for sports. And then in Student Gov, so every committee is kind of doing their own thing, like they're all working on their projects. But one cool thing that Student Life is doing is we're focusing on getting more art in the school. And so we're working with Mr. Scully about how to do that. And so we're thinking of putting a mural on the main staircase, hopefully. And yeah.
Nice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Your homework done.
Great. Go home. Go home. Go home. Have a
Good
great
night.
trip.
Thank
Have
you.
a wonderful trip.
Yes,
have a
she'll be
great
so
time.
packing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to act now.
What time are you leaving?
I don't have to be to the Grade Work School until 1:30
Okay.
in the afternoon, and we fly at like 7:30.
Okay.
So.
Okay, so you don't have like a 5 o'clock.
That's what
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Enjoy. Thank you. Have fun.
Yes. Have a great trip.
Yep. All right.
So ladies and gentlemen, that concludes my report. That will not be the 24-minute record, just for the record.
No, it won't.
No, it won't. So let's do finance and facilities, and then Matt's gonna head out, and then we'll still have enough to go through the motions.
Go
And
through the
we'll,
motions.
and we will go through them as quickly as we can, because it's a second read, and there weren't many changes to begin with, so. Okay?
That's good.
All right, so finance and facilities, who wants to talk about all the fun happenings at finance and facilities today?
Shall I start with the finances part, the
Sure.
numbers?
Go for it.
Yeah, so we survived our second and final 3 payroll month, which is a good thing.
Yes.
Expenditures are running slightly below budget, but so are revenues, but we're still in good shape and looking to improve. Federal grants, we get some Title I and Title II money in, so that's good. Adult education is flat, expected from month to month, but it's expected to spend down to 0 over the rest of the year. We don't have the final numbers on school nutrition for January, so not much to say about that. What else?
Is that it?
Yeah, I think that was pretty much it.
Matt, do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Sure. Ryan put together a great presentation regarding a renewable energy credit solar program. And sorry if I miss a few things here, but in quick summary, the district's looking to reduce our carbon footprint by approximately 75%. And some of the benefits to the, implementation of a potential solar program is valued at roughly about $72,000, which is quite a chunk of our utility bill, being $250,000.
Yes.
Approximately. And also talked about some of the risks, such as overcommitment, policy risk, production risks. Some of the things we'll look into is maybe getting an understanding about some other solar programs and schools that are involved with the programs, and potentially presentation and learning a little bit more about programs that are successful. And we have a wonderful handout that does break down some more details in this early stage preliminary review. So if there's anything else that you can add, Sue, anybody?
Ryan, do you just want to say, because it is a law, a law that's being revised, right? Or new?
Revision to a law.
Revision to a law.
LD 1711.
Okay, and can you just, because I think that Matt missed the very first part about the credits, just because because you went over that before I think he arrived.
Sure.
So just that little piece. Otherwise, I think he got it all.
Okay, just 2 things. It's a 20-year program, so it's a 20-year commitment that we would enter into. It's basically creates like a triangle, and I think I had a picture that's kind of like a triangular picture. So there's a solar generator contractor that we would partner with. They build a solar array. It generates bill credits. They can't get bill credits because they don't have an energy bill. So they partner with us because we have a large energy bill. The credits are applied to our energy bill, and then we're able to pay the contractor. So it kind of is like a triangle picture. So it would be a 20-year agreement to do that. That generates 2 pieces. There's a bill credit, and then there's also renewable energy credits. So between those 2 pieces, it would be about $72,000 per year for 20 years.
Because we can then sell
The
renewable energy credits. Because people will be looking for to buy those.
Is that guaranteed to happen, to be able to sell them?
Yes?
The bill credits would be guaranteed. The renewable energy credits would not.
Not be guaranteed, and the amount you could sell them for would not be guaranteed.
Correct.
Oh, okay, right. So
But
it's not a
the-
guaranteed $72,000.
Correct.
Correct.
So our hope is to have one of the vendors come in, do a little bit of
And
work
do
and explain it
some
to us.
information.
Just to kind of get some more of the details, and there are a number of communities that are working through that right now.
Yeah.
I think Falmouth, Portland, Wyndham, I think you mentioned, just to
Yeah.
name a few. So, there is some positives, but there are some risks, so I think we just want to get some more information.
We did look at it several years ago, but we would have to build the array.
Yes.
And
That was cost prohibitive.
and we took on all the risk.
Oh,
This
right.
way, the risk is taken on by the person who builds the array. So like they were
Okay.
saying, if there's a hailstorm
Right, oh, right.
and it gets wiped out,
It's on their
we don't
insurance.
need to continue to pay them because we're not receiving the credits because they're not producing any energy. That makes sense?
And the cost
So-
to set it all up is not on us.
Not on us at all. But we do have to commit for 20 years that while they're producing credits to us, we will pay them.
That's kind of the unknown.
So that's sort of the unknown a little bit.
It's exciting, though.
It is.
That's
It
someone's
is exciting.
position in this district, you know? That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It was what, 1.2?
Almost 1.5.
1.440 over
goodness.
20 years.
Yeah.
That's very creative and innovative.
Yeah.
As attractive as the savings is, I still think that probably, for me, the nicest part of this is that we're actively participating in Maine's
Right.
commitment to
To
get
reducing
to
it. Yeah.
renewable
Yes,
energy
yes.
and providing our kids with an educational opportunity at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, because we could, like,
Tie it
we
in.
forgot that piece. We
Yeah.
could use trips to the array
Yeah.
to teach
Absolutely.
about solar renewable.
No, I think
Be a great
that's
opportunity.
As long as it's not up in the county. I mean.
Yeah. I know, we'll have to get
Yeah.
something
Long bus ride.
semi-close
Lines,
proximity if we can. So,
Just take the
all
other
right,
side.
does anybody have any other questions about that? All right, Matt, head out.
Okay.
Yeah,
Bye,
you
Matt.
got 3 minutes, so.
Little ones in bed.
Yeah, no, go.
So the action out of that is find out more. right?
Find out more.
Yes.
Yep, Ryan said he's gonna put, our is it comprehensive energy? No, what's it?
Competitive energy services.
Competitive energy on it, so.
It'd be great if we could shoot for the March facilities and finance meeting, if we could do that. That would be
Yeah,
great.
that would be great.
If at all.
Do you want me to do transportation and facilities, or you wanna do it? I'm happy to do it too.
I know that with the facility, the transportation, the mechanic that we were hoping was going to work out on a part, was just couldn't get to an agreement that was mutually satisfying.
Yep.
But we do have a weekend mechanic that works for Cressy and works 10 to 12 hours on the weekend, and he seems to like doing that, so we're going to try to change the position in the budget from a part-time mechanic to a weekend mechanic. And bus drivers are in good shape, but you're still researching like area driver compensation and stuff to make sure we're
Paying everyone.
Competitive.
Yeah.
we don't lose our bus drivers that we have.
We need to be competitive.
Yes.
Yeah, summer projects that we're looking forward to include things like retrofitting things at the middle school to make the systems more effective, more efficient, and continue with the paving, starting probably with Central and Elliott, and then looking towards Great Works for the most immediate projects. Right?
Yep.
And I think that's pretty much all I
I
have.
think that was it. Perfect. Thank you, Sue. Ed policy, we will meet on February 26th, and I'm sure we'll have a whole new array of policies to bring to the next meeting. So, let's go through these. Like I said, there were minor changes last time, so I think we can probably zip through them pretty quick because we did spend the time. These are second reads. We did spend the time the last time. So can we have a motion for the first one, ADC?
I'll move we approve the second reading and discussion of tobacco-free schools, use and possession of tobacco, electronics, smoking devices, ADC, as well as the next 16 motions.
All 16 of them.
Just the first one, just the first one.
Second.
All right. Did anybody have any additional changes on this one? All right, all those in favor? Want to keep going, Paul?
Sure, why not? Move we approve the second reading and discussion of the policy advertising in schools, KHB.
Second.
Sorry. We'll just keep up the, we'll just get it done.
Just keep up, Joe?
Keep up, Joe.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right, did anybody have any additional questions or changes on this one? All right, all those in favor? Okay.
I'll move we approve the second reading and discussion of the policy advertising in the schools procedures, KHBR.
Second.
Paul, did you have any questions on these? Because I know you weren't here last time.
Did not.
The breakdown of what's going to be used where. You're good?
Read through them, sat
Okay.
through the policy meeting, I'm good.
Okay, I just want to make sure, that's all. All right, all those in favor then? I just want to make sure
Thank
that you were all set. Keep going.
All right, let's see, we were on 4, right? Considering,
Yep.
move we approve the second reading discussion of the policy advertising in schools request form KHB-E1.
Second.
Okay, any changes or questions? Right, all those in favor? Look at us moving right along here.
I'll move we approve the second reading discussion of the policies scoreboard advertising KHB-E2.
Second.
Okay. When will this go into effect right away, that they'll be able to start selling? That was my only question.
I think we would probably start in the
Start
fall.
fall?
To give us
Okay,
a chance to
perfect.
kind of get our ducks in a row.
No,
That
I
would be-
think that's
Yeah.
better anyways, because the season's kind of over.
Yeah, it's not
What are
much
you
in the spring,
selling?
yeah.
And that's when Mr. Buzzle has the meeting with all of the
The boosters,
Yes.
yeah,
Mhm.
so everybody can gear up for the fall. All right, all those in favor? Okay.
All right, move we approve the second reading discussion of the policy student wellness JL.
Second.
My phone, I'm sorry, people.
It's probably the alarm to wake you up in the morning.
It's actually Nick calling.
Is it 4 a.m. already to the snow day?
It's actually Nicholas. All right, all those in favor on the wellness? He's probably thinking, she still won't be at school board this late. That's what he's thinking.
We've been here before when the lights turned out automatically.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while, though.
It's back on.
All right,
Move we
how, the
approve
next one.
Second reading and discussion of the policy competitive food sales, sales of foods and competitive, in competition with school food, EFE.
Second.
All right, I think that one was just the date, so I can't imagine we have any other changes. All those in favor? All right, and the last policy one.
Move we approve the second reading and discussion of the policy public's right to know, freedom of access, PDB.
Second.
All right. And any questions on that one? Okay, all those in favor? All right, here's the new stuff.
There's a bunch of policies here from the softball boosters for fundraising.
Yeah.
I went through all of our district policies to make sure they all kind of fell within the appropriate range. I had a couple of questions, like the Bob's Clam Hut is a jar that they're going to put out and just kind of say, Marshwood softball on it. It's not going to be someone standing out there like in tagging, like asking for donations.
They do that every month for a different cause.
Yeah, exactly. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure there wasn't kids kind of going door to door, because we were pretty specific in our board policy about that. But that was the only one I had some questions about. So I
Okay.
was able to approve all of them, but just so you know.
Okay, all right, well, let's start with the tip cup.
Anybody else want to read, or do you want me to keep going?
Keep going.
All right, I'll move we
You
approve
saved
the
this drawing.
softball boosters fundraising proposal, Bob's Tip Cup Program. Proceeds used to offset program costs.
Second.
All right, and so John, I think, just explained it. But that's nice that they do that. They don't allow their employees to get tips, right?
No.
So they
I'm always
put-
bummed out.
Yeah, they put the tips out for other organizations, so. All right, all those in favor? Okay. And these are all just 1 year, is that why they're?
These
Or
become
these are gonna be annual,
These will be
okay.
annual, yep.
All right, they're gonna be busy, those
That's right.
softball boosters, boy.
But they're gonna be,
But they're gonna be well off. All right,
And also move that we approve the softball boosters season fundraiser to collect donations for a calendar raffle, with the proceeds be used to offset the program costs.
Second.
all right, and that's just a normal donation, sell the
Yep.
calendars,
Yes.
win, perfect. All right, all those in favor? Okay,
Move we approve the softball boosters season fundraiser to collect soft goods for savers.
Second.
they get paid by the pound or something?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a neat little program that they have. They did it last year as well. So
Okay,
maybe-
are they gonna do like a collection time? Because I've got a couple pounds.
Yeah, they do.
To get rid of.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
no kidding.
perfect. All right, all those in favor? I will be looking for that, because my house is getting lighter by the day. With all the stuff that's leaving. All right,
All right,
Done.
we'll move we approve the softball boosters season fundraiser music and dancing for spring training.
Second. And I do want to hear what this is
Yeah,
about.
what is this one?
What they usually have is the Motor Booty Affair comes,
Oh,
I
right.
believe,
Oh, okay.
in January. They used the Bronx Street Legion the last time that I was aware of it, so.
Oh,
They have an
yeah.
opportunity for families to come and just have a nice night out.
Have they done that this year?
I believe
Did
so.
I miss
I think
it?
they did in
They did it,
January.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I totally
was when
missed
we were
it
in
this
St.
year.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So.
all right. Okay, all those in favor?
All right, I'll move we approve the softball boosters season fundraiser for raffle at Outlook Tavern, Golf and Tavern to be used for spring training.
Second.
All right. And what's that one about? They're doing just a raffle?
I think my understanding is like the golf tournament. They're doing the raffles for the golf tournament. and being
Gotcha.
able to raise money. And so like the spring trainings, remember last year they went
Yeah,
to
they
the,
went-
I think the Ripken Experience in South
Yeah.
Carolina. I think they want to go back,
Yeah, it's
not
true.
this year, but the following year. So I think this is kind of their state
Okay.
trying to get the ducks in a row. to do
That is an incredible facility.
It's a lot, isn't it?
We went by in our travels and we actually pulled off the highway to go look at it. It's amazing. All right, all those in favor? Okay.
All right, and last, we move we approve the Marshwood softball boosters season fundraiser selling of caffeinated beverages at school board meetings beyond 9 p.m. Season fundraiser for cornhole tournament to be used for spring training.
All right.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? I love those cornhole tournaments.
Can you make a lot of money in a cornhole tournament?
I think they did fairly well for project graduation.
Okay.
Yeah, because we had, a lot of teams entered and then and we did big raffle, 50/50.
50-50, yeah.
And
That's
you
fun.
gave away like cash prizes for the winners.
Cool.
So, yeah, it was super fun. I'm glad somebody else is doing it.
Well, everybody can play, right? So it's very inclusive and not
Yeah.
everybody can golf.
I got beat by
I know I
2
can.
junior girls.
Softball
So that
boosters
wiped me
tournament.
out. It was very fun, though. All right. How about a motion to nominate Tawny Petrangano?
Penagaro.
Penagaro,
Move we
okay.
nominate Tani Penagaro, Marshwood High School nurse, BA 753,876.
Okay,
Second.
all right.
So Tani is joining us from New Mexico. Her
That's cool.
boyfriend at this point lives in Scarborough, or has lived in Scarborough, just left the military. And so just a neat opportunity. The reviews that we got, or at least the references when Rob checked the references, were just glowing. And so
Awesome.
the question that sold me was when she answered, and I asked her, how do you balance creating a nurturing, safe environment for kids who aren't feeling well, and then also the other extreme of kids who want to get out of class and go to the nurse's office. So in that is kind of like the traditional kind of conundrum, and she was just right on it, but just building relationships with kids and how to do that. So just really, it's a great expertise. She's been trained in mental health first aid, which is really a nice addition to have that, just to really bring some different perspective to the position. We're obviously going to miss Joanne Roberts, but I think Tani's going to be a great addition for us in the school. So.
Cool.
Oh, that's excellent. Will she join the wellness committee?
Yeah.
That sounds like a good fit.
Will she join the softball boosters?
That's just the cornhole team. I think that's
All right, all those in favor? Thank you. All right, and the last one for the donation.
Move we accept the donation of $500 from the grandfather of a central school student to be used for students in need.
Second.
So grandfather just reached out to NINA and just wanted to make an anonymous donation,
Yeah.
just for any students who may be struggling, and
Yeah,
that may be
that's
in a lot
very
of different ways.
sweet.
Just a very nice thing to do, so.
Very sweet. Thank you, whoever you are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whoever you are. Obviously awesome. How does that, is there a pool that goes into? Of
So
students?
like-
She just have $500 sitting there, she decides what to do.
So typically, at the holidays, they do different things for families who may be in need. There's also, they may use it for paying down school lunch bills for people who may not be able to afford it, so they have some flexibility to do that. But they have like an SAT fund, is basically a student assistance team fund, where they can kind of pull from depending on the individual needs of kids, so.
That's awesome.
All right.
All right, all those in favor?
For sure.
Okay, perfect.
No gift cards.
All right, Tony and Rob, you each have 15 seconds.
Go.
We're looking forward to vacation, people are tired, but they're working hard, and things are going great.
Tony, I meant to ask you during the discussion around SRO, you're excited about this?
I'm excited about it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
Ron is, is just a unbelievable resource. So is Elliott Moyer. You know, anytime we call the Elliott PD, I mean, really, I mean, their response time to the schools is unbelievable. But I'll also put a plug in for Jeff Upton.
Yeah.
I call him a lot, and it's really because there's just that fine line of what's breaking the law and what's not.
Yeah.
And, you know, I want to be careful when I say a lot. I mean, I run things by him.
Yeah.
I mean, we want to be very, very fair to the kids, and but we want to make sure we do the right thing, and we don't want to mix our relationship with the police. So they've just been excellent. And Jeff will tell me, he says, you know what, that's one that you can handle within the schools, and it really doesn't violate the law. Or he'll say, you know, you really need to have the Elliott PD there.
Yep.
You know, just in consult. You know, so it's been a wonderful working relationship over the years. So yes, I'm very much in support of it.
Awesome.
So we need to get another Jeff.
Excuse me?
We need to get another
Well,
Jeff.
you know, it's, Joe, when you say that, I think it's critical that you find the person who fits. You
Yep.
can't hire a police officer and say, we're going to jam that in there and
Yep.
make it
Absolutely.
fit.
Right.
You have to be,
Yeah.
you have to be thinking, this is where that person would go.
Yep.
And really, it has to be a good fit.
Yep.
You know, personality-wise, for a lot of things. You know,
We had a
you know,
situation,
so-
you know, experienced a few years ago where it wasn't the right fit. And then it becomes really, it really becomes two contradicting philosophies.
Yeah.
And so you really need that officer who can live in the gray a little bit more, where it's not, I don't always necessarily have my police hat on. I think it's always important to understand that's your role, but also to be a good listener and be able to help
Yeah.
problem solve and see the big picture. Because sometimes it's, you know, very different missions that we have, so.
The answer, Joe, is yes, we need another Jeff.
Yep.
I really believe that, so, yeah, thank you for asking.
Sure.
Rob?
So in the interest of time, I'll just pick one of the many things I could highlight. I just received a email congratulating one of our teachers for being nominated York County Teacher of the Year.
Oh, awesome.
Process, Jeff Blazinski. So.
Yay!
nice.
Oh, my children will be so excited.
I know.
It's like their
He's
favorite.
great.
Oh, he's fabulous.
The process has begun, so I thought that was nice.
Cool.
I don't think my kids have had him. Where is he?
He
Where?
teaches
English.
English.
Oh.
He's life, my children will say he was life-changing for both of them.
Wow. Wow.
Aiden
Yep.
just took film studies.
Yep.
Really.
Yep.
Yeah.
He
That's awesome.
was definitely life-changing for both of them.
That's fantastic.
He's really interesting guy.
He's very interesting.
Yeah.
Oh. Excellent.
Goes out of his way, above and beyond.
That's awesome.
I'm sorry it took so long tonight. I know
Hey,
it's a lot of
no,
information, but I
it's
just think there's some
good. It's
important
how it
stuff to
is.
talk about.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Absolutely, all good.
This next motion's
Catherine,
yours,
I don't
Laura.
want to cut you out. Anything?
No, if you haven't had a chance to get to any of the unified basketball games.
Yeah.
then it would be-
Going tomorrow?
I am planning to go tomorrow.
I'm going tomorrow, too.
Yeah, they played
They're gonna be
last week,
standing room
and
only
they're
tomorrow.
gonna be coming up.
Yep, I will definitely be there tomorrow.
Yeah,
Thank you
it's
for the
tomorrow.
reminder.
But if school's canceled, then I'll be able to go. Just saying.
Just saying,
No
Mr.
pressure, Jen.
Gaverly.
Just saying.
All right, can we have a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, oh, sorry. I motion we adjourn this meeting. It's getting late.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Yes.
Done.
Thanks for hanging in there, everyone.